Hello, this is Neil from iPaintGirls.com. So what we're looking at here is the human torso, and I'm going to talk about the peanut method and how it can help do the torso and how different parts fit together to help you memorize those really simple shapes, and then you could better draw torsos. But first, let's talk about the torso a bit. Imagine that the torso, as we see here, is two boxes first. Just imagine you have two boxes, and these boxes are stationary, they can't move. But imagine there's a tube that's thinner than the box. Let's say not too much thinner, a little bit thinner than the box, like that. But we want to stretch that tube around the boxes, so the tube stretches around the boxes, comes back to its original length, and stretches around. Gives you a good idea of the human torso. You can easily convert that to like this kind of peanut shape, like so. And so if you start with that, just like a loose drawing with the peanut shape, you can then have something on paper and you can start drawing from that. But if you imagine those two boxes are stationary, they can't move, but they can move, but they can't warp or bend. You know, they're stiff, so they stay still, but they can twist, like they can twist like this to where the box is away from us. Oops. Like that, so that it can twist like so. It can bend side to side like this. It can also bend forward and backwards, so it can come, you know, towards us and away from us. I wish I had a box right here. I don't have anything that's really shaped like a box around me. Anyway, you get the idea. And the bottom one can do the same thing. And what's going to move is that center rubbery piece, the tubing in the center. And you want to kind of treat it like that, like it's just kind of soft tubing, and it can warp and stuff. So if you memorize that aspect of the torso, I think it'll make it easier to draw the torso when you start from that peanut shape. What you want to do is go to like iPaintGirls.com or anywhere where you can learn to draw the figure from the front view. Go to iPaintGirls.com, go to the drawing section, and go through the drawing the human figure, and master that front view. It's boring, it's a boring front view, but master that front view. Once you master that front view of the human body, where you can draw that from your mind without any references, then just adjust one little thing here and there. Like, for example, draw that front view and then just like lift one arm up like this, and then you might want to look at a reference first to know how the arm looks like from upwards, and once you get that down, then try something else, like put all the weight on one leg, for example. So if you put all the weight on one leg, on her right leg, our left, you'll note that it pushes that hip up. And so if you were to draw this as a peanut shape, you would kind of draw the peanut shape like so. It would be kind of stretched out on this side, but connecting on that side like this. And that represents the fact that most of her weight is on this leg, because when the gravity is here, gravity pushes up like that. So it pushes all this hip bone up, which slightly puts a slant to the hip, like so. The two shapes to work with in the human torso is this upper shape here, which is kind of like a crude rib cage, and then the bottom shape here, which is sort of like Superman trunks. So it kind of looks like this, right? And that's a good shape to work with when drawing the lower portion. It really does help put everything in a perspective. And so you'll notice then, because you have that shape that I started with, and I actually in the sketch had that shape in there, and you notice that shape is a little bit slightly coming that way, and this shape is slightly coming this way, like opposites. And that's good to give nice form or flow to the figure. That's why you want to like push all the weight on one leg or something, or shift her hips to the side. For example, in one of my latest drawings I did of Power Girl, I shifted all her weight this way, so her weight is going that way, right? So you can see the hips and everything, and so that causes that basic hip Superman shape is slightly slanted like that. So you can see that because everything is pushed that way, that shape kind of comes like so at a slant, and that makes me have to draw everything like that. Then her leg and everything comes like that, and then this big part here, and then the leg comes off that. Just remember that the leg comes off of this piece here, and that will help you. And I'll show how the shoulders too work that way. And then you have her upper body is kind of going the opposite way. It's kind of twisting up like that. So when I first started this, I started with the, with that peanut shape. I kind of drew in the peanut shape like that, and then kind of pinched it this way, and voila, I kind of have the basic shape to go off. Then I start adding everything else onto that and working from there. As long as you have something on paper, you have something to work with, then you can go on from there. What I should have done more though is her boobs are really big, so they're kind of blocking some of her shoulders, which come back here and then connect like that. And where the shoulder and bicep connects, that's where you get your armpits. And I kind of messed up on this side over here. So the shoulder comes up here, and then where the bicep goes underneath that, then that's where you get that shoulder muscle. Then you're going to have the armpit within there, like so. And then you'll have this kind of other muscle comes here, the back wing muscle, whatever. Right, so another thing to memorize, another shape to memorize that's important is this shape here, this kind of M shape you see here, like that. And the breasts connect to that M shape. If you memorize that shape, and then you have this kind of V here where the collarbones are, then you have this kind of V, and that's usually going to be shaded a little bit, pretty much no matter what lighting. That usually will be shaded in a bit, but you might get a little lighting right around here, depends on, but that part is usually shaded, so that's important to know. Anyway, so once you have that shape there and the breast, then it's easy to attach the shoulders. So remember, the bottom shape you had was that that Superman shape, Superman trunks, right? And the legs attach right to that shape, and they come off of that shape like so. And so if you memorize that and how that works, then it's makes it easy to start putting in the hips and everything, and then how the leg comes off of that and so forth. Well, same thing with this upper shape here. If you have your your rib cage, and then you do the neck, then you do that upside down heart thing that I teach in the other one, that just helps you kind of place your breast where they need to be, where they're not too high or too low. And I really need to get back doing, I've been doing that now in my later pages, so that I don't make that mistake, because my breasts were getting too low. Okay, so anyway, once you have that placement, and then you have your collarbones coming in here and everything, these back muscles, and then you have that shape there, that kind of M shape, right? You can see that kind of M shape in there, like so. Once you have that shape, then you know where to connect the shoulders. Now you know the shoulders connect right in there, and the shoulder muscle is shaped like that. It's kind of like shaped like this. Then the bicep comes off of that, right? If you memorize those shapes, that you have that shape there for the shoulder, you have the bicep, then you have the tricep part, then you have the armpit. Memorize those shapes, then it's easy to connect them together from your mind. Because you remember, oh yeah, so you remember I have this M shape here, and I got to connect this kind of shape here. I don't know what to call that, but connect that shape and then connect those shapes. And so it's almost like building blocks together. Also, when you're shading, it helps you to shade better too, because if you have all these shapes here, let's say you have one light source coming from this direction, it's usually easier to shade with one light source first and then erase for the second light source. So let's say it's a beginning. I want to shade this shape first. I know it's going to kind of be, loosely, it's going to kind of be like this. Then I have let's say my bicep coming off here, and I would have slight muscle there. So this right here is going to be in that right, a little bit of lighting on the bicep like that. Now this part here, I know I'm going to treat it as this different shape. I'm going to have a little bit of shading here, a little bit on the breast, like so. A little bit of shading here, and then in here I'm going to have some shading. The neck's going to come all the way down to the collarbones. That's another thing to memorize, is the neck comes all the way down and touches the collarbone. Right? So you have the collarbone, neck comes all the way down, touches that. You have these little muscles coming off, which causes that little shadow indent there. Then you have the back lat muscle going behind this and this here, and that's usually shaded because it's behind, like that. But it really depends on on the person, the lighting, everything. So I'm almost out of time, but if you shade that way, you notice everything will kind of fall into place, and then you go back in with your secondary backlight, you just kind of erase some of that. And this is easy to do if you're like working with Photoshop. Then you'd have a double lighting. You also would have this kind of shape in here, and then you'd have, that breast would be shaded a little bit. This part of this breast would be shaded too, because it's more like a sphere than it is anything else, like a balloon. Remember, you have your other shoulder connects. You have that same kind of shape, comes off, so like that. Right. So hopefully this helps. As you're starting to develop your figures and everything, start with that peanut shape, and then put the Superman underwear in there, and then put the rib cage, and then do the neck, and then the upside down heart, and then just start working from there. And at least you have something on paper, then you can start working. Without nothing, you can't do anything. But if you have something on paper, you can start working with it, and then erase, and then trace over your own work until you get something that you're satisfied with. Right, so that's helped me a lot. I hope it helps you too. Please comment and rate. I appreciate it.